Welcome back to another episode of Critiots. I'm Steven,
And I'm Isaac.
and today we're reviewing the Dungeon Master's Handbook. Last time we looked at the Player's Handbook, said it was basically a must-have if you're going to play D&D, whether you're a DM or a player. Today we look at the did I say Dungeon Master's Handbook? Dungeon Master's Guide. I'm looking at the back of the book right now, so I can't read. I would say there is a lot to like about this book.
Yeah.
If you're a DM, I would honestly highly recommend picking it up. When I was running my game at my place, the items in this were immensely useful to me.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't ended up inventing a lot of items myself, but when we needed a quick reward for the players, I'd be like, oh, you're gonna get sending stones. Sending stones are pretty cool. They're like medieval walkie-talkies.
They're pretty great. I like the Boots of Elvenkind, of course.
Those are classic. I ended up looking at like boons and stuff. Boons were fun.
Yes.
I didn't use gods to do it. I think I mentioned last time, I used Stevos gave boons, who in your campaign has become a god, essentially, to some.
Just someone.
To some too? Anyway. So, items in themselves, I think, are basically a reason in itself to get this book. There's enough in there, enough time put into these, enough uses for almost any of them in a campaign.
The art is so cool, too.
The art is really good. Art is good in all the books.
Yeah.
It's
almost like they can afford to pay artists.
Wow. Who would have thought? But just in that, I would recommend a DM having this book. Another few things I like in it are... There's like... I think there's some... traps.
Yeah.
Traps are... I ran out of ways to challenge my players. New ways, I should say, to challenge my players. Obviously, there's... Anytime you can throw a random encounter, a monster in front of your party, and they're gonna be entertained for a little bit unless you're just doing a bad job, which happens. There are off nights for everybody. There were off nights for me. I know you've had some off nights, and sometimes it's up to the players to push it through. But I started looking at some of these, and the one thing is, if a little DM tip, if you haven't implemented traps into your campaign before, if you're going to start doing it, start small to where they're going to start knowing to look for traps. But you don't want to, because...
What happened, Steven?
I don't think I did anything wrong.
Okay.
And I don't mean that in like something terrible happened. I just mean, I think I actually was kind of smart and eased in like, there's a pitfall there. If you fall down, you're going to get some HP taken away. There's a hole if you step on this stone that, you might get a lot of HP taken away, but you can make a dex save kind of thing.
Okay.
And eventually, I didn't want to put it in there so frequently that they always look for traps, because then it becomes, well, what was the point of having that trap there if they're just going to look for it instantly?
Yeah.
You don't want to put a trap in every room. But to put it, if you know that there is something to distract them, that they're gonna, and you don't want that, like, obviously if there's a trap in there, you don't want to trick your players, say like, oh no, you're the DC, you don't see anything, because even though you looked, because that's not fun, that's not fair. So you want to know kind of what the DC, I found I don't usually have an exact number. It's more like if they've rolled like a 17 through 18, like 19, they're gonna see it.
Yeah.
If they rolled something a little lower, they're gonna see something a little fishy, but not know what's going on. But yeah, this has good idea for traps if you can't come up with any, because that was one thing I had a hard time with, was how do I make a trap? What's a DC for a trap? A few other things. I don't find numbers for rolling encounters very helpful. Some people will. Every D&D book has charts galore in there. And if you love charts, if you love rolling randomly on a chart to figure something out, almost any of these books is going to be perfect for you. Is there anything that like really stands out in these books, or that this book in particular, that you really like that we haven't covered yet?
I like the suggestions it gives for building items.
Okay.
In the back.
I don't think I've looked at those heavily.
So it gives, like if you take a sentient item,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll give you the one minor property, one major property, benefits, and then one...
Like a negative or...
One minor negative, one major negative.
Okay.
And then it'll let you... It has like a roll chart where you can roll for different personality traits, and yeah, you can end up making a real a-hole weapon.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's not something I've looked at. I've found suggestions for villains in this to be somewhat helpful.
Yeah.
Like giving motives, which if you don't have a motive for your villain, usually taking over the world is a good one, but they've got suggested weaknesses, or even if it's a personality weakness.
Yeah. That
I really enjoy. I will say, if you are a player...
Oh, this one has it too.
Oh, yeah? What? Oh, the sizes and stuff?
Yeah.
I will say, if you are a player, you're probably... There's stuff you can get out of this book for sure. But, for example, there are 2 classes in here that aren't available in the Player's Handbook or any of the other books.
Yeah.
But you would have to be a very, I feel, well-rounded, experienced player to get anything out of those classes, because they are... The Oathbreaker isn't inherently absolutely evil, but it's meant to be. Yeah. I think it's Death Domain Cleric is an evil cleric. Like, that thing is playing with forces that are not on the good side.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you couldn't make it work for... Although, if you're running an evil campaign, like, they're good choices.
For sure.
Which is something I've always kind of wanted to do or be a part of. But I'm always afraid it's just going to devolve into, well, my character's evil, so I'm going to stab this guy. 'Cause why not?
Yeah, okay, so that's going to bring up a point that I got to talk about then. Alignment should be descriptive, not prescriptive.
I agree. Alignment, like, whenever I pick an alignment in D&D, honestly, I lean more toward chaotic good than anything, just because chaotic good is a little less specific. It runs very morally and less... You think of lawful good, almost... People say they're lawful good in real... would say they are that in real life, but nobody is truly, or very few, are truly lawful good. There's almost nobody who's going to go by the book, do what's right every single time. There's always gray area.
Most people are chaotic good or neutral good.
Neutral good, yeah.
I think everybody leans more towards chaotic than neutral, though.
Well, in the neutral alignments, like the middle of the bar, neutrals, the lawful neutral, true neutral, and chaotic neutral, are strange alignments that are almost unplayable. Yeah. Because they have trouble having motivations. Not to say they can't. It's possible. But neutral is a hard thing to work on.
Yes, most people are not neutral in real life.
Well, I think most people kind of are neutral in real life, to be honest. But... like, you're not going to get most people out of their house to do one thing one way or another, I feel like. But it's not a fun adventure kind of character. Back on topic. Yeah, so you got around, if you got the book, around the 142 mark is where it's got like the... Oh, I bumped the mic. That's cool. is where it's got more of the sentient items, which I've never even No, I have thought about making a sentient item, but I don't know. I've never really thought.
You guys have encountered a sentient item.
A couple times, I think.
One of them's great. Summons a lizard.
Oh, is it the
Yeah.
World Breaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a fun time. So, I guess final thoughts on this book. There's a lot to it. If you're truly into all the rules and I guess
Some special options that you wouldn't normally get.
yeah, there's a lot in here that even I didn't realize is in here. And it can really add some flavor to your game if you're stumped. Because I would say for a DM, especially a new DM, I would say Dungeon Master's Guide for 5e is not necessarily essential, but very helpful.
Yes.
If nothing for the items.
And it is pretty unnecessary for players to have.
Like we mentioned, there are a couple classes in there that can work for players.
And it just matters if your DM allows it or not.
And if you have the right player.
Yeah.
Again, it falls a little evil alignment is hard to put into a game, even if you're doing an evil campaign.
It is easier if everybody's all evil.
Yes.
But, you know.
So I would say if you're new to D&D, if you're planning on DMing, Dungeons Master Guide, I would recommend it. I do not feel, if you don't want to spend the $50, that it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Agreed?
I agree.
Yeah. That's so. We'll catch you next time, and I think next time we're going to talk about the Monsters Manual. And the original True and Blue 5e Monsters Manual.
Yep.
Literally blue.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time.
Bye.